Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 6, season 3 of The Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live throughout the NRL season every Wednesday at 8 p.m. New Zealand time. Evening, Richie. Thought a better performance from the Warriors certainly improved my overall thoughts on the round, and congratulations need to go to you for getting the first perfect round prediction of the season.
Thank you, sir. I was expecting it. Wasn't surprised in the slightest. It was a good round actually. All bar the first game of the weekend, which where do you start? We'll get to that in the review, but the rest of the week was some convincing victories, pretty much all around, including the Warriors, which was great.
Definitely. And while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on High Art Radio. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to be covering everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 4 and our update on our tips, a recap and preview of the Women's Premiership and the pending grand final. We'll then stop and answer some questions from all of you, as well as some that we've got prepared for each other. We'll then preview round 5 and make our picks before ending the night with a recap of the Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well just jump straight into the top stories, Richie.
Sounds good, mate.
First one's probably the most important due to my affection for the guy, but Tommy Turbo has been sidelined for at least a month after suffering an MCL injury that will require surgery. Devastating news for the Sea Eagles, but he hasn't really been as impactful as he was last year. But I still think a Manly team without Tommy Turbo is pretty much always a predicted loss. What's your take on his injury and the impact it's going to have in the next month?
Well, I certainly think it'll make life a lot harder for the Sea Eagles. Obviously, even when he's not in full flight top form, he's still pretty class and one of the top players for Manly, so they'll feel it, I believe. But they went for about a month last year without him at the start of the season as well, when they really struggled, and then once he came back, they bounced back pretty big. So hopefully it won't be anything too major for Manly.
Yeah, and Barry's just said in the comments that it's early in the season. That's right. Yeah, it is early. I'm not writing off Manly. I made that mistake last year where after the first 4 rounds, I said they were going to go to wooden spoon territory, and I was well and truly won over by them, as I think everyone that watches regularly knows. I kind of fell in love with Manly a little bit, much to Richie's disgust. And then Seagulls will continue with them. They're also going to be out without Brad Parker this week due to him contracting COVID, and Dylan Walker is also in doubt with a knee injury. So 2 more big losses for them there. I'm just going to have a look while we're looking to make sure Dylan Walker was still out. He's been named at 14, so he should still be okay, but if Manly are anything like Nathan Brown, that team could completely change closer to the day. But yes, devastating there. But I'm sure they'll be okay. But on to sad news, but good for us. Richie, Cowboy Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, the Hammer, he is out for 2 to 3 weeks after tearing a PCL. Devastating for the Cowboys, who we'll talk about them very shortly in their game. They haven't looked that great the last few weeks, but without him there, they're certainly missing a big strike weapon, but that's good news for a Warriors side.
Yeah, it's disappointing for Tabuai-Fidow, but like you say, I'm in your camp, being Warriors fans. Not too disappointed to see him miss this week.
Definitely. We'll keep this injury chain going a little bit. Bronco Pat Carrigan, he got a grade 2 MCL injury and is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Big loss for the Broncos. Again, another team that hasn't been performing that well the last few weeks. And I think we'll go into it a bit more depth in a little bit, but I think the Broncos really had a step down once he got injured in that game in the weekend. And he's kind of, I know everyone loves talking about Payne Haas, but I think Carrigan is such an integral part to that team on both sides of the ball. And when he went off, they just seemed to look a bit disheveled. So I think that's going to be a big impact on the Broncos, and they don't have the nicest run in that 6 weeks that he's going to be gone.
Yeah, I think they'll feel this one. He's been a really good 1-2 punch, actually, along with Payne Haas. Those two have been the punch in the Broncos forward pack to start the year. So not great news for if you're a Broncos fan, and you might have the Jazz Tavanga voodoo doll out, I think.
Yes, speaking of Jazz, he has been banned for that tackle that he did to Carrigan. He's banned for 2 weeks. He pled guilty early. If he fought it, he had the risk of going up to 3. But in a post-match interview, he kind of said, before they even cited him, he kind of thought that he might be spending some time on the sidelines. 2 weeks isn't too bad. We'll probably get into those sightings and tackles a little bit later. I don't think there was too much in many of them.
Thug life.
But yeah, it's kind of different to the thug life because they're at times they're a very dangerous tackle, but they're not like the big highlight reel thuggery that I love. It's more sneaky. So yeah, I think Jazz, if we're going to ban the next guy I'm about to talk to, I think Jazz needed some time on the bench as well. But that next guy was Thomas Fletcher, who had a Kane Evans of a performance against the Warriors. He is banned for 2 matches and fined 2 individual lots of $1,000 after being charged for 3 of his 4 reportings in that game against the Warriors. So we might cover it a little bit in the review, but what's your take on Fledgler and his charges? I think he was a bit hard done by on at least 2 of them, 2 out of the 4. But yeah, what's your take?
I thought, at least one of them he was a bit hard done by. But Flegler's that kind of player. He plays on the edge and plays hard and physical. So he's always in that danger. And I know this isn't his first rodeo with being in a bit of trouble with the judiciary. So I think being on report 4 times, he was going to cop at least a game. But he's wound up with 2, so
he's going to find himself in Jake Hetherington territory if he keeps this level up. Where even if he looks at a player funny, he'll get reported. So I don't know how you adjust it. He came out before the Broncos Warriors game and said that he had learned a lesson because he was just back from suspension. And said he had learned and done extra work on his tackling technique. Clearly it didn't work. So hopefully he takes this couple of weeks off to really learn it, because every ref's going to be watching him.
So you're saying he plays in the danger zone? Got my latest stuff.
I guess so. There is that fine line, and the real good players are the ones that can play really close to that edge. Jazz has got better at it. Jazz has reduced the penalties against him, but still plays with an aggressive edge. There's countless guys. It's just towing that line and getting on the right side of the referees helps in that way. That's a topic we'll talk about very shortly, actually. But next bit, we'll go on with a bit more Warriors news. The Warriors are rumored to be going after the signature of young Rooster half Ronald Volkman. We talked about it during the week when this news came out, Richie. Neither of us really know too much about him. And I've done a little bit of digging, as I like to do. There's a lot of praise on this young kid, with some even saying he's got more potential than Sam Walker. And it's that allure. We see it a lot where a player is stuck behind another player and they just want to wiggle and get a chance to go out. I watched some podcasts talking about it, who said that he should never come to the Warriors because they got so much depth in the halves. But I think they're all forgetting that we don't have a depth of halves next season because Ash Taylor, Cody Nicarima, Chanel are all off contract at the end of this year. Chanel has not taken up the offer he was offered. Cody hasn't been offered one. And Ash Taylor I don't see getting offered one because he basically said he didn't want to come to New Zealand anyway. So you're going to have Sean and Luke Metcalf as the halves depth next year. So I think if you could get this young kid over, get him under the learning tree of Sean Johnson, you've got potentially Metcalf and Volkman as the starting halves after Sean's gone. And that's kind of what you want. We've got all our eggs in the Sean Johnson basket, as we've always done. So when he goes out, you kind of want someone that can just jump straight in. So, what's your take on it?
Like we were talking earlier in the week when we heard this, and I put my research hat on as well, and I think I may have watched the same podcast and went to some highlight reels of him, and he looks promising. He looks like a nuggety little guy who has some good footwork and a good offload. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Paul Turner in the way he moved, but yeah, he's obviously a young man, so we'll see what happens with the signature and if we get it across the line. But it'd be exciting and it'd be good to have a contingency plan, like you say, for when a couple of our current roster move on and Sean Johnson isn't exactly a young man anymore. So it'd be nice to be looking at some depth in that area.
And I see Robbie's here, evening Robbie, and he said if they win us a premiership this year, I won't really care about the roster in 2023. I actually think the 2023 roster is looking better.
Yeah.
So I was getting myself in a bit of trouble being excited about 2023 without 2022 even starting yet. So, but yeah, the Warriors we'll talk about in the ladder later. We're in the 8 now, so as they say, it's our year. So, we're in. We'll get off the Warriors chat for a little bit and we'll go to KP Watch. I think he's my new Cameron Smith. Kalen Ponga met with Wayne Bennett after the Knights lost in the weekend. Andrew Johns has come out. He's working with the Knights a bit. He said that it was bad form from Wayne Bennett to meet with Ponga during the season as it's distracting to the player. I kind of agree and disagree with him because if it was Craig Bellamy or another team that is in there, I could say you could wait to the end of the year. But the Dolphins are starting the season next year and they still don't have a roster. So you kind of can't wait till October to get people ready to be playing February, March. So I understand that part of it. But what's your take on it?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the circumstances are a little bit different given that it's a new team coming in and they've got to form a roster. And Wayne Bennett, by this stage, has surely earned himself the right to do whatever he wants, hasn't he, Brad?
Yeah, he's too old to tell off. So
exactly.
And Barry's commented there, KP seriously overrated. I'll comment on that later when we're talking about the Knights game because I've got a few thoughts. So I'll come back to that, but I am on the same opinion as you, Barry. Next bit is probably going to take us a bit more time because it seems like some other teams are starting to feel the Warriors effect. Phil Gould has come out and backed claims from Todd Payton and Justin Holbrook that there's a ref bias towards the top sides. Gould also caught COVID this week, so not a good week for him. But what is your thoughts on this, Richie? This seems to be something that's just occurring to Australian coaches now that there's a bias at times. We feel it quite a bit as Warriors fans, rightly or wrongly. What's your take?
Depends when you ask me, Brad. If you ask me during a Warriors game, there's 100% a bias. Yeah, I don't think there's an agenda or anything, whether it's an conscious or unconscious thing with the refs that happens during certain games. You can look at some of the big teams and form your own opinion, but I think it's just from game to game, it's different. You'll see certain games where some teams seem to get a roll on with the ref, and I don't think it's any one team in particular. It can sort of chop and change, but I think the officiating from game to game is pretty inconsistent at times. So,
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, it comes and goes. I think you get the more successful you are. If you're winning, you generally things go your way. It's just the way it is. It's not always right, but it's the way the cookie crumbles. Unfortunately, when you're winning, things are generally heading your direction. If you're up against the wall, it kind of feels like everything bad that will happen does happen. So I am always very critical of the refs with decisions they make against the Warriors. Obviously, I write my reviews and match reports on the Warriors game, so I've kind of learned a bit more to be less one-sided. I'll try to look at it from the outside looking in at a decision. And yeah, if you watch, we watch every game or almost every game of the week. There's horrible calls that go against teams all the time. It's not just against us, but it's an interesting ploy. I think Todd Payton's gone into the Ricky Stewart books. He's called out the refs, and generally you get all the 50-50 calls go your way the next week after you call them out, which is a bit worrying for me as a Warriors fan. But yeah, it's interesting. Next bit's kind of a two-pronged. 25th of June is the rumored date that the Kiwis and Tonga will play each other at Mount Smart Stadium this year. Going on to that a little bit, there was a bit of noise and a bit of rumors in Australia that eventually leaked its way over here that the Warriors were not happy with this decision and were going to block players from playing in that test. They wanted to be the first game played in New Zealand. They've come out and disputed that and said that they're fine with it and they're not going to stop any players. Two-pronged attack. What's your thoughts on the game coming back and these rumors that came out about the Warriors and then their denial of them?
Well, like you, I know you're a fan, Brad, of Test Rugby League, and we don't get enough of it. So if you were to offer me up a Kiwis Tonga test, which we know will sell out, I'm all for that, and I'll be all around that with bells on. I'm glad the Warriors have come out and said that they won't block players from participating in the test, because we've just had a lack of live sport here in New Zealand. So, to have a test rugby league game here and then the Warriors coming back, it's all good in my book. As much as you can give us, let's take it.
Yeah, no, I see Simon's put there that he can understand why the Warriors would have issues if it was true. I can see why they might be a bit disappointed, but I don't think it's going to affect the crowd the Warriors will get. It doesn't matter. Kiwis Tonga, you play it at Mount Smart any time of the year, it's going to be a massive turnout. That's just how it is in Auckland with Tongan League. They will come out in droves, and like you said, we've been starved of these games. If they can give us the more the merrier, and there's a World Cup at the end of the year. The Kiwis haven't played since 2019. They need a game, and I'm all for it. The more league I can go to in person, the better for me. I'm sick of these Australians getting to go to all these games. It's been far too long that I've been stuck in this room. I want to go watch some live footy. So I'm all for it.
Would you go wearing red, or would you go wearing black?
Ooh, black. I guess it depends if my boy Ben Murdoch-Masila is playing for Tonga or not.
Yeah.
But I'm a New Zealander, so I'm going for the Kiwis.
I thought you were part Tongan. My bad.
No, only by association.
Gotcha.
And then last bit of news before we move on, Dale Cherry Evans is extending his stay with Manly. He signed till the end of 2025, effectively ending his career with Manly, which is good when you think a few years back he almost became a Titan. He did the backflip got a perfect 10 on the backflip, and yeah, I think he's still classy. He had a great game of the weekend.
He did.
Good to see. We don't see a lot of one club men anymore, so it's good to see that he will actually stay. And yeah, for my second team, good old Manly. You know, what's your take on the decision?
Yeah, I'm pleased with it. Like you say, loyalty's a hard thing to come by in today's game, and I can't see him in any other jersey. To be fair, would have been a shame to see him leave.
Yeah, and I see Callum's commented that he lives in Tasmania, so he's also sick of Aussie getting all the matches. Yeah, that's tough down there. Be interesting. I can't even. Have they even played any NRL games in Tasmania? They wouldn't have they? Not even.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. You'd know more than us, Callum. But I like when they take games around to other places. To try to grow it. They need to do it a lot. The NRL need to really pay attention in New Zealand, as we've talked about a lot, especially if they want that second New Zealand team. So yeah, hopefully we see more of it spreading around. But we may as well get into reviewing round 4, Richie. So this is where I hand you the keys. And
absolutely. So starting off on Thursday night, game of the round. Titans getting up over the Tigers 8-6. Yeah, I don't know where you start with this game, Brad. Only one try in the match to AJ Brimson in the 78th minute, so it took right up until the dying minutes for a team to actually get over the line, and it was one of those games where it was a case of there was more errors than points in this match. So you go, Brad. You tell me what happened.
I mean, the Tigers just weren't comfortable in letting the Warriors have one of the worst games in the history of the NRL, and they decided, no, look, we're going to change this and make it our own thing. I think, is it a case of the Tigers just making everyone play their worst when you go up against them? I'm not sure, but it was a dreadful game to watch. I was telling you and Paul before the show, if I didn't do this show every Wednesday, I probably would have stopped watching that game. It was horrible to watch. Kind of became a second screen type affair, and I started doing other things. Listening to it, and in the end I just felt sorry for the Tigers. It was heartbreaking to see them lose it the way they did. It looked like they were going to get their win in what could have been the first game in the modern era without a try scored, and then just those dying seconds that their hands, I spoke about it last week, they don't know how to hold on to the ball, and when it really mattered, they dropped it. And yeah, heartbreaking for them. They just can't catch a break right now. I don't think they did enough to win the game either. If they had still come out and won, I would have said that they were lucky to get it. But then the Titans were no better. I don't think they deserved to win either. They were dropping the ball consistently too. I think this is like we said last week, this will be a game the Titans will be thankful for the 2 points and will never want to talk about again.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's just one of those games. It looked like neither team wanted to win it, and one team just happened to do it. And we were talking before the show. I said it was almost fitting that the one try that happened right at the end was a kind of a messy sort of off the post, someone dropped it, fluky try. Very fitting way to end the game. And like you said, the Titans were no better than the Tigers. They actually made more errors than the Tigers. So, yeah, I think both teams will want to forget that one, and worrying signs a little bit if you're a supporter of both of those teams. Guess it can only go up from there. The next game, Friday night, Sharks 18-0 over the Knights. We get our first donut for the year. The Knights failing to cross the line. The Sharks didn't fail to cross the line, however. They came up with 4 tries. Aiden Tolman, Sione Katoa, one to Takalai, who was, well, I'm sure you'll cover it, Brad. I can see you smiling already. Yes. He had a stormer. And then one to William Kennedy. Yeah, our first donut for the year. I thought the Sharks looked pretty classy. Talakai looked right up your alley, Brad. Shades of Conrad Hurrell out in the centres. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, before I get on to that beautiful man causing all sorts of trouble, as a former prop, I'd love seeing Aidan Tolman score the first try and in his 300th game, no less. It was great to see. You don't really expect a front rower playing off the bench to be the first try scorer, but great to see. The Sharks, they just dominated this match. I know it wasn't a massive scoreline, but Nico Hines, he had an off night with the boot. He was a bit wayward with his kicking tee, but in the end that didn't matter. They didn't need those extra points. It's always good. But Talakai was a monster. He got moved into the centres. I saw that he was out in the centres, and I kind of had a little bit of a chuckle because he doesn't look like a centre. He's played centre in lower grades, but he was a monster. He had 17 tackle breaks on his own. And was scary, and I love seeing him out there as long as he's not in the centres when he plays the Warriors, because our edge defence at best at times is a bit iffy, and I think he would be a monster. But they've got some good forwards, the Sharks, so they have to put him somewhere. So if he can't make it into the second row, just play him one extra out. I suppose the time will come when you're playing a team that can actually combat you in the attacking sense. Is he going to be a liability on defense? He's not the most mobile, but he's not the slowest either, so he might be okay. We won't see looking this week. We're probably not going to see it either. They're playing the Tigers, so watch for more tackle breaks from him this week. But yeah, the Sharks, I think, are just going from strength to strength. And if they continue to improve like they are, they could be in contention to be a top 4 side. We're still very early days, but they're just looking good right now. And Knights, they just never got out of the gate. I still think the Knights are a good side. But yeah, they just never fired a shot. Kalen Ponga was far too quiet. The Knights really needed his magic touch, and he offered very little. There's all the talk, we talked about it briefly, and Barry mentioned it in the comments about, is he going to be a Dolphin? Is he going to be a Knight? There were rumors that he's going to reject the Dolphins and stay for squillions of dollars with the Knights. I personally, I'm going to stick to my guns that I said last week and think that the Knights should let him go. With the money they want to pay him, they could get 3 players to fill their team. Tex Hoy isn't a superstar fullback by any means, but he did the job when he needed to. But for $1 million, think of what you could get to fill that roster. You've got to look. Before the season started, I said there's 2 players worth $1 million in this game, and that's Nathan Cleary and Tommy Turbo. Everyone else that they're talking about $1 million are not worth it. Payne Haas is not worth it. I don't see $1 million is a crazy amount of money anyway. But yeah, I don't think KP is consistent enough. He gets injured a lot. Tommy Turbo gets injured, but when like I said earlier, if Manly don't have him in the side, I automatically predict they're losing. Kalen Ponga, if he's in the side or not, it doesn't seem to really have a big impact. Talented player, but yeah, I just think he's not worth the money, and I don't think he's worth painting yourself into a corner salary cap wise just to keep him. But what's your take? I've went on a massive rant there.
No, that's fine, mate. I'll just come in to ice it. The key word you use there is consistency. He'll go on a stretch where he looks like an absolute world beater and can't be touched, and then and drag them to wins. Yeah.
And Simon's come back and said Jason Tomalolo is worth $1 million for the Cowboys. I think he used to be. I don't think he is now. I think the game's changed and he's not really as impactful. And saying that if I could offer him $1 million to come to the Warriors, I'd be paying it. So I'm very I'm very on the fence with that. If it's $1 million to get a quality player to your team, potentially. I just think for the Dolphins, Pong is not a guy to build around. But the Cowboys need Tomalolo. Would I be paying him $1 million to stick around if he said I'm going to go elsewhere? Maybe not. But the Cowboys don't really have a lot of options either. The Dolphins have every option on the planet right now. They could basically take half the Warriors team if you listen to the rumors that Tony Kemp's trying to spread.
We don't listen to him.
But we don't listen to Tony Kemp on this channel. So next game, Richie.
Yep. So the next game was the Panthers getting up over the Rabbitohs, 26-12 in the grand final replay. 5 tries to 2. Isaac Tago, Stephen Crichton, Taylor May with a double, and Liam Mutt to 2 tries from the Rabbitohs, Campbell Graham and Cody Walker. Thought it was a pretty efficient performance by the Panthers, Brad, and that left-hand side, Tago and May are going absolute bananas right now. What do you think?
Yeah, Panthers just keep winning, don't they? Before we even get into it, the 8-point try. Good call or bad call?
We won't ref bash, eh? Let's agree with it.
No, I don't.
I wanted to set you up for that.
Horrible call. It's if you go by the letter of the law, he did connect with his foot, but I don't think he was leading with his foot.
This is why I wanted to set you up. Because you have a reputation to uphold. Yeah.
It wasn't a Billy Slater baseball slide into someone's face. It was kind of an accident. He was trying to stop the try. It's the same as when you see the shoulder charges. The shoulder charges when someone's trying to stop a try. I think it was harsh. But it's what we talk about, the rub of the green when you're successful.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have changed the outcome by any means, but it wasn't good for the Rabbits there. Nathan Cleary's first game back. I think he was solid enough. He had a shocker at the kicking tee, which is going to be an ongoing trend this round. I can't find a weakness in Penrith right now. They've got a big pack, great halves, and a dangerous back line. Does that mean they can't be beaten? I don't think so. It's just going to take a mighty effort. And the Rabbitohs, I said it a lot last year, they when they know how to hold on to the ball, they can beat anybody, but they couldn't. They made 14 errors in this game, and 14 errors against any team in the NRL, you're in an uphill battle. But 14 errors against the Panthers, you're just you're taking the piss thinking you're going to get a win here. Rabbits haven't had the easiest start, so I'm not going to be writing them off. They sort those errors, they're title contenders again automatically.
Ooh, big claim. Yeah. Like I like the word I used at the top was just efficient from the Panthers, and you said Rabbits made 14 errors. Panthers only made 7, so they made half the errors. You're on the money, Brad. Way too many errors from the Rabbitohs to even be in the same ballpark as the Panthers, so they'll rue that. But like you say, pretty tough start for them to the year. So onwards and upwards from there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Then to the big game of the weekend, the Warriors 20-6 over the Broncos on a 2-game run, putting us in 6th place.
At the time.
Yeah, 7th now. But after we get over the Cowboys this week, we'll be firmly in the top 8. And we'll stay there.
Top 4 here we come.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a pretty good performance, Brad, from the Warriors. An improvement from the week before. 3 tries to 1. Jesse Arthur's grabbing a double against his club that he's being loaned from, and Marcelo Montoya grabbing the other try, and only 1 try for the Broncos to Adam Reynolds, which I thought highlights the big improvement in our defense this week. We only conceded the 1 try to a grubber kick off Reynolds, a bit of individual play. So, yeah, unpack it for me, Brad. I know you would have enjoyed this game.
Yeah, I see Nigel's here too. Evening, Nigel. I forgot I had it on my news list, but I skipped it by mistake. We had after this game the footage of Payne Haas and Albert Kelly having a bit of a scuffle.
Yeah.
It wasn't from after this game. I think they say it was after the game they played against the Bulldogs, so a few weeks ago. Not a good look for the team. I'm hearing that it looks like the Broncos are going to stand down Payne Haas for some time, a couple of weeks for it. Albert Kelly got injured and is going to be out for some time anyway. But yeah, we'll probably talk about that a bit more next week anyway. But I think for this match, it was probably the best match the Warriors have had this year. Nathan Brown came out in the post-match and said that they simplified the game plan, which is something I've kind of been calling in my reviews that they needed to do. They, rather than having our front rowers try to be playmakers, which we all know front rowers are probably the best playmakers in the game in NRL anyway. They are better than a halfback. They've got better hands, need I say more? But you pay those big value halves for a reason. So seeing Adam Fanua-Blake and Matt Lodge decide to just dominate the middle and bend the defensive line and allow Sean to do all that stuff. And it worked wonders. Adam Fanua-Blake ran almost 200 meters. He had 200 meters at the end of the game, and then the NRL took it back and made it 196. Matt Lodge had 175 as well. And yeah, once they're doing that, I think we talked about it before the season started, after the preseason matches, when the Warriors can get the ball rolling up the middle, they're very hard to stop. All the Broncos, former Broncos, I should say, did well. Arthur's getting that double. There's rumors now that the Warriors want to keep him full time. I don't blame them. I would pick him up in a heartbeat. And I still don't see, once this year ends, I still don't see Arthur's getting into the Broncos team straight away with Katoni Staggs and the like there. So, yeah, I would be interested in keeping him along. But yeah, I thought the defense improved. That's been my bugbear all year. If anyone reads my reviews, it's always a negative I have, is missed tackles and their inability to defensively line up properly is probably the most uneducated way I could say it. But they were really good. Adam Pompey impressed me. I know we talked a lot about it after the game, that when I saw Adam Pompey was named in the centers, I kind of was like, oh no, because I don't like him as in the centers, but he did well defensively. He shut down his opposition. He had some flick passes out to feed his winger, which is all I want a centre to do, is feed the winger. I suppose the only thing I could say is there were no tries in the second half, which had me a little bit concerned, but this is the first game that the preferred spine have played together. So I think we'll see points start to flow a bit better consistently throughout the game once they're clicking. And I just like to see that, like, they weren't pushing to get more tries and costing themselves the game like we've seen so many times. I think it's kind of a fable for Warriors fans that you're basically waiting until the 79th minute going that the Warriors could let this slip here. So it was good to see them, build that foundation. And they were still trying, but they weren't throwing 50-50s all the time, which is exciting when it works, but heartbreaking when it doesn't. And yeah, Broncos, I'm rambling here. The Broncos just look like the team of old. They make too many errors. They were shut down. Katoni Staggs and all their strike weapons were shut down. Payne Haas still had a big game, but I still felt like he didn't really have the impact you expect from him. He was running for all the meters, which was great, but he wasn't being able to break through and give an offload like you see from time to time with him. And their discipline was horrible. Fletcher got cited 4 times, as we talked about already. Simbin once. Turpin got a Simbin. Stupid decision by him towards the end of the game. And Broncos have a tough fortnight coming up. So it's going to be tough for them to get their confidence back. But I think once the confidence is back, they do have a shot of still been a top 8 team. There's just a lot to work on. Much like the Warriors have, there's still a lot of work for the Warriors too. But great performance, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just professional. We, like you say, the gloss went off a little bit in the second half, but we still did enough to control it. Our forwards, which was one thing I was really impressed with, and we talked about it during the game, just tucked the ball under the wing and ran hard and bent the line, got quick play of the balls. So I feel like we dominated in that area, and it just let Sean control things. He had a nice try assist. He was putting up good pinpoint bombs, and our kick chase was good. So I think once we got to the second half, that was all we needed, and then put a couple of penalty goals to seal it as well. The tries weren't coming, but we were good enough to control the game through to the finish without too much of a heart attack. Thank goodness. We're used to those heart attacks around here. But yeah, like you said too, looked a little bit like the Broncos of old. So, bit of a worry in the next couple of weeks for the Broncos, but we'll take it, Brad. Puts us in the 8, so it's got to be good. Your second team in the next game, Manly Sea Eagles, getting up 25-6 over the Raiders, 4-1. Ruben Garrick, Morgan Harper, Haumole Alukuatu, and Tom Trebojevic with the tries for Manly, to just the one try for the Raiders through Jack Whiten. And their playmaker, Daly Cherry Evans, with a huge game, a 40-20, a 20-40, and a field goal, the massive kicking performance. Go on, Brad. Go on your rant. Your second team.
Yeah, so DCE was on fire in this match. He's now become the first player to kick a 20-40 and a 40-20 in the same match. And then, he kicked another field goal, I think. That's his 25th.
Yeah.
Unbelievable game from him. There was nothing fancy here. I don't love a kicking game. I hate kicking. Kicking's cheating, but it seems to work. It was just a simple game plan. There wasn't anything fancy out of Manly here. DCE made sure they controlled territory, and Manly just got to work. If you're constantly trying to fight out of your own half, you're generally not going to get a win. You can't really set a game plan going, we're going to have to run 80 meters to score all our tries. It generally doesn't work. I thought Tommy Turbo had an all right game. He's kind of getting back to his old self, and then he got injured. It's not going to help the Sea Eagles the next month while he's gone, and I need him to come back super strong from injury so he can still get the Dally M like I predicted in the preseason. Raiders were just too inconsistent. They've got talented players. It's just not clicking. In their defense, they are playing without their top half and hooker. And not all teams are like the Roosters and have, $40 million extra dollars to kind of make you have decent depth. So it's a big hit for them. They just need to build confidence. I just said it with the Broncos. Build some confidence and get out of that slump, and I think they'll do okay. But they have the Storm this weekend, so it's not going to get easier anytime soon. But yeah, I've always got a soft spot for the Raiders from the good old days of Bradley Clyde, who I used to pretend I was like. So yeah, sorry, Paul. What were your takes on it, Richie?
Yeah, I thought the Manly Sea Eagles were very professional, obviously led by Daly Cherry Evans, led them around the field really well. I just thought the Raiders, they weren't at the races, to be fair. I thought they were trying hard. They're throwing a lot of offloads. I think they had 21 offloads, but, a lot of those weren't hitting the hand, and I think they were trying their hand a lot, but they looked like they were lacking a bit of direction. And, the Sea Eagles just turned the screws on them and pushed out to a pretty, comfortable win in the end.
Definitely.
The game after that on Saturday, the Cowboys getting rolled by the Roosters 28-4. 6-1 for the Roosters. We had tries to Paul Momirovski, Joey Manu got a double, Victor Radley, Kevin Nagama, and Daniel Tupou. just the one try for the Cowboys, Murray Taulangi, who's picking up tries this year. But yeah, Roosters pretty much had this one wrapped up by halftime. Brad 20-0 at halftime. Cowboys couldn't find a way back. A little bit of disciplinary issues for the Cowboys too, with 3 sin bins. What did you make of the match?
Yeah, the Roosters were comfortable in this one. It was an easy stroll for them, yet the 3 sin bins against the Cowboys did not help them at all. That's where the talk from Peyton came out, where he said that the Roosters were getting the rub of the green. I just think it was a complete performance from the Roosters. Everyone played their part. But Walker, Sam Walker's another half that needs to learn how to goal kick. I don't know what's going on. He hit 2 from 6. Obviously, they didn't need they didn't need the those points in the end, but the whole back line was just consistently asking questions of the defense, and I think it makes the Roosters really hard to target in a game plan, like which backline player is their strike weapon. They kind of all are. So good for the Roosters there. The Cowboys were dreadful. I think they lacked direction, but playing with 12 men isn't easy. They did have calls go against them 100%, but it's that cliche, you need to play better and take the ref out of the game. It's not easy to do, but yeah, I'm sure they'll bounce back, but hopefully it's not this weekend.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully it's not this weekend. See a bit of banter in the chat there, Brad. I am liking how you're talking about kicking. It's almost like you're a half in a front rower's body.
All front rowers are halves.
Yeah, not much to say about this match. The Roosters pretty much had this one locked up at halftime, like we were saying. I thought Joey Manu had a massive game. He was looking really slick. And all the other big guns are doing their bit too. James Tedesco, pretty much a comfortable win for the Roosters. My premiership tip from the start of the year, so hopefully they keep that up. Now, the last 2 games, we had a couple of blowouts to end the week. The first Sunday game, Storm 44, Bulldogs, the second donut for the weekend, 44-0. 8 tries to 0. Ryan Pappenhausen with 4. Josh King, Kenny Bromwich, Xavier Coates, and Felice Kafusi. 6 from 8 off the tee from Ryan Pappenhausen. So there's one goal kicker that had a little bit of success. You'll enjoy that, Brad.
Definitely.
Yeah, pretty one-sided this one. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, Storm were crazy good with ball in hand in this match. Stat-wise, if you looked at the stats, these teams were very close, which is crazy when you look at the scoreline. But the Storm just know how to execute better. And when you give them a chance, they're going to take it with both hands. And we saw that in this game. They got a few breaks and went the length of the field. Pappenhausen, another amazing game. He scored 4 tries, was kicking 6 from 8, as you said. The guy might not know how to find a barber, but he can find his way to the try line. The Bulldogs, though, they weren't as bad as the scoreline suggested. As I mentioned, the stats were close. They missed less tackles than the Storm, but they just struggled to get themselves in scoring situations. They got a talented side, but they just need to figure out how to get their attacking weapons into the match. It's easier said than done, but they've got a brutal 2 weeks coming up. So we'll see what they learn from this match and if they're the same team we saw last year or if they've actually improved. They've unfortunately, they're throwing Flanagan to the Bulls by bringing him into the halves. They keep changing the halves. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know what else you can really say.
I agree with you that and we've spoken about it in the first few weeks as well, that the Bulldogs have really struggled to get over the line. I think they've been pretty sound defensively up until this game, but they're really struggling with their attack. I think Josh Addo-Carr's finding life, a lot harder to get over the line in the blue and white jersey.
Yes.
He might have struggled a bit in this game, maybe wishing he was still in the purple. But yeah, it's a problem for the Bulldogs, so they've got to figure out a way to get some fluency in their attack.
Yeah. And the last game, Richie, the last game.
the red hot Parramatta Eels, 48-14 over the Dragons. Brad would have loved that result. His wooden spoon tip getting an absolute pasting.
Beautiful.
8 tries to 2 for the Eels. Dylan Brown, Mitchell Moses with a double. Nathan Brown, Reid Mahoney, Clint Gutherson, and Wonga Blake with a double to 2 tries from the Dragons, Jack Bird and Tarek Sims. 12-8 at halftime, so it was pretty competitive up until that point, but then the Eels just went bananas. Some really slick tries too. Did you enjoy it, Brad?
It was another blowout, and I couldn't be happier to see the Dragons demolished, to be honest.
I thought so.
Mitch Moses was unbelievable. He scored a double. He was 100% at the kicking tee. Dylan Brown was no slouch either. These two are really combining well this year, and they're just the exact opposite of what we just talked about with the Bulldogs. They're just great at getting their team into scoring opportunities.
Yeah.
Their back five were dangerous as well. And this is the Eels we're used to seeing at this time of year. So I don't like to get too excited. If they get a sniff, they have a blinder. They're a team that can compete with those top sides. They just need to keep this level of performance for the entire season. We get to like halfway point and they start falling away. So I get sucked into the hype too much with this team. So I'm going to just back away a little bit and see how they go. The Dragons, they made some puzzling choices before this match, dropping some players.
Yep.
And I think it hurt them here. I would have kept a Moni in the halves, left Jack Bird in the forwards. I would have kept Sloan at fullback instead of bringing Moses Imbai in there. I think Imbai is a great number 14. I basically, when I saw the changes, I was like, the Dragons have already conceded defeat here. I think on a positive note for the Dragons, I think Ben Hunt did play well in a losing side, but he was basically on his own out there.
Yeah, 100%. I tend to get sucked into the hype with this team too. So, we'll wait to see how they go later in the year. But Dylan Brown looks like he's gone to another level this year. Again, this game he looked deadly. His try was fantastic. Deadly left foot step. He's looking fast and dangerous. But I don't have a lot more to add. But I wanted to ask you about this, Brad, because you're you're the one that loves all the offloads and the flick passes. Bryce Cartwright putting Mitch Moses over in the 75th minute.
It was.
What did
beautiful.
you think of that? Well, how good was that mid-air flick pass? What do you reckon of that?
Cartwright's one of those players that can do things like that, but the problem is half the time it goes to nobody or it goes flying over the sideline and it hits an old lady in the crowd. So it's great when it works. But it was one of those nights where everything was working. So when luck's on your side like that, that's when you chance your arm. But I always like the flamboyant stuff. It's a joy to watch.
Got me out of my chair.
It was a good round, which takes us to our picks. Paul gave us a bit of a sneak preview when we were promoting you there with your perfect round. We've had a little bit of change in the ladder. You got the perfect round. I got one wrong because I didn't back the Warriors, and Paul, unfortunately, Simon had 4 out of 8, which saw all the leadership change. I am now at the top, as I should always be, with 20 out of 32. You've come into second place at 19 out of 32, and Simon's gone down to third at 18 out of 32. It's still very close, though.
Yes.
Can all change, which is great to see. It's good to see that the hosts of the show are at the top again. We might be learning, or Simon just helped us out by having an off week. So a couple more like that, Simon, would be great.
The check is in the mail, mate.
Yeah. Still good to see us all in tight contention, and probably another change in leadership by the end of this weekend, no doubt. Before we go on to questions, we'll just do a quick rundown of the women's premiership. We may as well talk about the ladder too, because it's the first time the Warriors are in the 8.
Beautiful.
Panthers are still number 1, undefeated. Storm is second. Eels are third. Sharks are fourth. Cowboys, despite their little bit of slump, are still fifth. Roosters are sixth. The Mighty Warriors are seventh. And the Knights are eighth. Titans, 9th. Seagulls, 10th. Broncos, 11th. Raiders, 12th. And then we go to the final 4. Rabbitohs, 13th. Bulldogs, 14th. The Dragons, who someone predicted to be wooden spoon, are now 15th. And the Tigers are dead last as the only team yet to win. So Tigers will get a couple of wins. Dragons will keep being rubbish, and I will get that prediction right, even though you laughed at me about it.
It's just nice to see the Warriors sitting there in 7th, and after we topple the Cowboys this week. Sorry, don't want to jinx it. Yeah. Back up towards the top 4 where we belong.
Exactly. And the women's premiership, we had the semi-finals in the weekend. Bit of an upset. The Dragons defeated the Titans 24-18, and the Roosters defeated the Broncos 22-16, making the grand final the Dragons versus the Roosters, and the first grand final without the Broncos. Yep. I was a bit surprised. I think we talked about it last week. We kind of predicted a Dragons Broncos final. Got half of it right. What was your take on the games?
No, I actually tipped for the upset. I tipped the Titans to upset the Dragons, so I was wrong on both counts. So good thing we're not doing a tipping comp for the women's premiership. But great games. The Roosters game, big surprise, obviously, and I know that a lot of the Broncos fans are feeling a bit dudded. The second to last try for the Roosters looked to be pretty dubious with putting the ball down a bit short of the line and a number of calls. But hey, the Broncos have had a lot of success, so it's kind of nice to see someone getting upset and the title going to somebody new.
Yeah, and Simon's just mentioned that as well, saying that it's a good thing that the Broncos are in the grand final. Yeah, it shows growth in the game, which is good. I see, Callum's come out with fire saying that we make Ruin Hammer look second rate. That's a harsh call. They're
our mates.
They do a great show over there, and they get all the famous people on their show. You just listen to us ramble rubbish for an hour. But yeah, I love what they do over there, and I'm still trying to get the record for the most appearances. But yeah, question time, since Paul is rushing us.
You just said you were rambling. I was telling you to stop faffing and get on with it if you're rambling. So point rambling. Jeez.
That's one of Brad's key skills.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I know, but I'm thinking like, hey, we've just got through the review and like, it's the hour mark. Ready to end the show. Oh no, so we've still got a half hour to go. So Fiona goes, will be interesting to see the response that the Cowgirls, dearie me, Cowgirls, gets to Todd Payton's comments. Maybe he's trying to get the same response as Justin Holbrook got for the Titans. Thoughts on Todd Payton's comments?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's doing. I think I mentioned it in the news section. It's the Ricky Stewart. Ricky Stewart's renowned for it. I love Sticky, but he knows the right time to come out there and cop a fine, hurl abuse at the refs, and then the next week he is on the right side of the ledger when it comes to refereeing decisions. Costs you $10,000, but it helps you. So I think that's Payton's tried to do it. Would have loved to see him do it a bit for when the Warriors, when he was our coach, but he didn't. But yeah, I think we'll see a few 50-50 calls go their way. But yeah, I don't think it's going to matter. I think we're going to crush them.
Yeah,
cool. Robbie says, how's your fantasy teams going? I don't know. Do you guys play fantasy? I know you guys, we're obviously doing our predictions, but do you play fantasy as well?
I'm actually not this year.
Yeah, Richie played fantasy with me last year and was getting schooled, so he's retired.
Yeah, I retired mid-season.
Look, what you guys get up to the weekend is between the two of you. I'm not fantasy footy here.
I'm still doing it. I'm not doing that well. I'm in Supercoach as well, and I'm doing a lot better in Supercoach. It's my first year there, but fantasy's not too bad. came into the season quite cocky because I had Nathan Cleary, Tommy Turbo, and Ryan Pappenhausen all in my roster, and then Tommy's been rubbish fantasy-wise, and Cleary was out for the first month. But I had Pep in my team last week, and he got me over 100 points. So not doing great, but not doing bad. I did see a comment in there, Paul, you might not have seen it yet, from Callum about front rowers in the NRL women.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm making my way through it. There are a number of questions. Jeez,
Sorry.
You're not rushing me.
Yeah,
I'm letting you ramble and blab on about fantasy. So, Brad, Callum says, he asked Hammer who he thought the best front rower in the NRL women's is, but he said that you would be the person to know instead. Being a front rower yourself with those ham-fisted hands you've got, what is your who is the best front rower in the NRL women's competition?
See, this isn't a good look for Hammer, just getting asked a question saying ask someone else. Horrible as a host. But in this chance, he is right. Out of the four of us on both of these shows, I am the expert when it comes to the front row, and hands down, it's Millie Boyle in my eyes. She was in a losing team in the Broncos in the weekend, but Millie Boyle, you can't call it a man crush, can you? It's a crush.
Yeah.
I love Millie Boyle to bits. I think she's a fantastic player, and she's fantastic. She kind of won me over in Origin when she got her nose sent to the back of her head and kept playing on. But she's a tough front rower. That's probably as good as any front rower I've seen on both sides of the spectrum there. So she's my point.
Any love for Elsie Albert from the Dragons, Brad? Because she is an absolute monster.
She is a monster.
The Dragons. So come on, it's not
a
fair question for it.
What are you asking? I don't rate anyone that plays for the Dragons.
Oh no, I just thought you might like the way she plays because she's pretty destructive.
She's very aggressive.
Mm.
Moving on then, Callum says, Brisbane have missed the memo. Expansive Entertainment Rugby League is currently the vogue. Their conservative out style doesn't work. They need to get with the program. Do you agree with this one? Because I thought the Broncos have been going a little bit better recently.
They've had a drop in form. I kind of disagree a little bit because that's what the Warriors were getting wrong at the start, and then the Warriors simplified their game plan and it worked. It's that fine line. The one out style doesn't work anymore. But if you can do the hard yards in the middle and then go one or two out, it works, which we saw for the Warriors. The problem is the Broncos are trying to do the middle with Payne Haas, and then when they go out, they drop it. Fix, they got one of the most devastating runners in Tony Staggs, but whenever he touches the ball, he just bobbles right now. They've got to find that line. They can't go one out, but they can't just throw it around willy-nilly because they don't have the respect for the ball that's required to do that.
Cool. Robbie says, imagine technology where the ball touches the try line lights up. Imagine how many tries were actually put down on the grass, but it's no try because there's no evidence. What are your thoughts on the NRL investing in some smart ball technology to let this happen?
You go first, Richie.
Sure. So what's he said there? Imagine when the ball touches the line, it lights up. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I don't know if you're referring to the Roosters Broncos NRLW game, the women's game, with their second to last try. But you see it happen all the time, don't you? So that'd be very cool. Don't know how feasible it is and how easy that would be to do, but I'm doing my normal fence sitting thing. Let's do it.
Honestly.
Sorry, folks. Richie and technology are not generally not two things that go well together.
We're not mates. No.
Yeah, but so you're not mates yet you're for it. I don't want to see it. I hate this technology rubbish. I know we haven't really covered it because I don't understand it yet. But they're talking about the technology and putting microchips in the ball to figure out the forward passes and whatnot. I think it's just gonna create more stoppages in the game, which we're trying to get away from. Every 5 seconds is going to be like for the forward pass, this is deviating, but for the forward passes, there's going to be one that's 3 millimeters forward, and it's going to stop everything because the computer said so. But yeah, the corner, I don't know. It's kind of like your cricket, right? That other sport that they play where you hit the wicket and it lights up.
Yeah.
But bit of excitement for the people with short attention spans.
That's what I was just going to say. I'm all about the lights and flashy
flashing
looking
lights.
bells and whistles. Make the posts flash green when the ball goes through them, and let's do all of that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and we should have fireworks coming out the top of the out the top of the post when the ball goes over. It's fantastic. I mean, Brad love that. He's all for a kicking game, so he's all for celebrating more kicks.
Well, I've been sitting there in cold stadiums and just waiting for a try scoring, so the flames come out and get you. Warm, so.
We also like Thunderdome, where there's some sort of a ring of fire around the pitch to keep you guys warm. Robbie wants to know who's your all-time Warriors Australian 17.
Ooh. Need all day.
That's
another show then, Robbie. I'm afraid we'll come back to that one.
Yeah, tune in next week and I'll have a 17.
Yeah, I'll do one too. There you go.
Yeah, next week we'll have that ready.
Brad. Yeah.
Robbie also wants to test your knowledge. Tell them about Carl Doherty back in the day. Or is that another? Is that a supporters special that we'll do on that
one? He played for the Warriors in '99. Was brought in to cover Matty Ridge. Played like 4 or 6 games or something. It was a handful. Nothing much. He was back, so I don't really care about him. I think he played for Glenora in New Zealand, if I'm testing my knowledge. I don't know.
There we go.
That's probably as much as I can tell you. He was a no-name back, like all backs are. And he did his part.
Let us know, Robbie, how many counts Brad was correct on there.
Exactly. I'm just scrolling through to see if there'd be any questions while we've been chatting. Any other sports you guys really enjoy watching? For me, obviously rugby union is my thing rather than league, and I enjoy road cycling. Boys, what are you? I'm surprised Brad has any time between basically his Marvel Cinematic Universe, those funny head things he's got in the background, and NRL. Anything else? Any time for anything else, Brad?
Yeah, I've kind of set my sporting life up that NRL goes, and then as soon as the NRL finishes, the NFL starts. So I watch the NFL as much as I can. My team in the NFL is doing horrible, so I haven't watched it as much. But I generally always try to get Super Bowl off so I can watch that. They're the main two. I used to watch a lot of Union, kind of fallen out of love with it a bit over the years. Still watch from time to time, but yeah, it's mainly that. And my cousin's a basketballer, so I've been watching a bit of basketball since he's playing in the NBL. So I go and watch the Kens Taipans who he plays for. That's about it. Still really don't understand basketball that much, other than I still reckon I can take him one-on-one. If he ever decided to watch anything I do, he wouldn't take me up on the challenge because he's scared.
And Simon says NHL, which I think it's probably with the way those hockey guys smash into each other, it's probably a good companion sport for NRL. Richie?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a sport junkie. Rugby union I love as well. I know not all league fans do. Tennis, cricket, football. I love a bit of turf billiards. I don't mind a bit of football. I support the Phoenix, living down here in Wellington. And combat sports as well. Boxing and MMA. I love a bit of that. So
yes, same here. Boxing and UFC and stuff. Yeah.
My weekends are generally pretty full if there's a good sporting weekend on.
And then being a stay-at-home dad, his midweek stuff is full of all replays. So
exactly. And I can watch all the NBA and stuff being a stay-at-home dad, so it's good. Yeah.
Cool. That's the questions from the live chat, guys.
Cool. I'll go with my question first because I think mine's a bit quicker. After starting strong, the Broncos, Bulldogs, and Cowboys appear to be falling into old habits. Do you think they're going to bounce back, or will they just repeat their 2021 form?
Nice and easy. I didn't tip either of these three teams for my top 8 at the start of the year. I don't think they will make the top 8. I don't think they have the depth to cover a lot of injuries or suspensions. So I think it'll be. I don't think either of these teams will get the wooden spoon. I think maybe the Tigers will have that one locked up. If I'm going to make an early punt on that, but yeah, I think these three teams will be sitting somewhere from 9 to 16, somewhere in that realm, in the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, I'm just looking at our predictions. Both of us had all three of these teams outside of the 8.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm kind of on the same trend. I expect the Bulldogs, I expected them to improve and be like anywhere between 9 and 11.
Yeah.
They've got a tough run coming up now, so they might start filtering down, but they'll all be above the Dragons, which is the goal, I think, for every team.
Sorry, filtering down. They're 14th. It's not like the Bulldogs can filter down much lower than 14th.
There's still 2 spots they can go down, Paul. It's basic maths. You can see it right there in the picture. There's still 2 spots.
But by your estimation, the Dragons have that.
Dragons are going to be dead last, yes.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, your question for me now.
Okay, so last couple of weeks, we've been doing a bit of having a bit of fun, doing a bit of fantasy picks. I asked you last week to select your all-time Warriors forward pack. What is your all-time Warriors backline to conclude this segment of fantasy selections?
Yeah, you made me do the thing I dislike the most, which is pick backs.
I know.
We talked about it a bit afterwards, and I think we've actually got the exact same lineup. So I've got fullback, I've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. My wings, I've got Francis Malley and Manu Vatuvei. My centers, I've got Clinton Torpey and Brent Tate. Halves are Sean Johnson, Stacey Jones, and then I've got Lance O'Hire as my interchange. I mentioned him last week anyway, because I included him on the bench I made. But that's it. There's a lot of players you can pick. There's Brent Webb, obviously, as well, but I've gone with Roger. But yeah, that's the team I've picked. It's going to be interesting to see what our teams look like just picking Australians next week.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. Your backline was exactly the same that I would have picked.
Yeah.
To a T. So great minds think alike.
So, late question here, Brad. Who's the best front rower of all time?
I can answer that on behalf of Brad. It's Paliacina.
It's Paliacina. Paliacina by a yeah. If there's ever a proper description of man crush, it's that. Yeah. I love that man to bits. Tears were shed when it was announced he was leaving the Warriors. If seriously, taking all bias aside, the best front rower of all time, I think you'd have to go with Arthur Beetson, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he'd be
taking all bias out. In the modern age, I would go with Steve Price. In terms of consistency, I think there weren't many that were more consistent for him, not only as a Warrior but as a Bulldog. But yeah, of all time, you have to go all the way back to the Stone Age with Arthur Beetson. He was just amazing, despite being the team he played for.
No love for Kane Evans then, Brad?
Kane Evans is up there. I'm still waiting for the challenge when I challenged him to a boxing match. He has not replied yet. So until he replies, he can't be on the list.
Make of that what you will.
But yeah, we've got I've got Simon's picks. He gave them during the question segment, so I've wrote them down, and he's actually made a different pick to us because we've picked identical this week. Spoilers. But first up on Thursday, we've got Knights Sea-Eagles. I've gone with the Knights for that simple cliche I said, that if Tommy Turbo doesn't play, Manly doesn't win. You've also picked the Knights, but do you have a reason?
Yep. Injuries.
And Simon's also picked the Knights here too.
Yeah.
Next game, Warriors Cowboys. We have got. I've picked the Warriors. Simon's picked the Warriors as well, and so have you. I've gone. I think the Warriors have really. They played well against the Broncos. I think another week with the spine together, they're going to combine well, and the Cowboys have been atrocious.
I went with Warriors. I think I can proudly say that this is picked with heart and head this time. I think the Warriors showed good improvements, and I think we can do it again with another week with Sean Johnson at the helm.
Yeah. Next game on Friday is Broncos Roosters. All three of us appear to have picked the Roosters. I think it's obvious why. The Broncos aren't playing well. The Roosters are really strong. So it seems very easy to pick.
Yeah, same. Roosters seems an easy one.
Watch the Broncos win this one now.
I know, they did it last year against the Roosters. I'm waiting for them to rub egg in my face.
Yeah, and next one's Raiders Storm. Another game we've all picked the same. We've all picked Storm here. Storm, how can you pick against them after that performance in the week? And the Raiders are still, they're not confident right now. And you never want to be lacking confidence when you're playing the Storm.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. I pick the Storm every week. So, yeah.
Next game on Saturday, we've got Rabbits versus Dragons. Another game, we've all picked the same. We've all picked Rabbits. I don't like picking Dragons, so I was very happy to see this on the picking sheet. Rabbitohs will want to bounce back. So, yeah, I think it's an easy win for the Rabbits here.
Yeah, I've put Rabbitohs. The Dragons weren't good on the weekend. I think if the best version of the Dragons turns up, they can make a game of it, like they did against the Panthers. But, yeah, I'm going to lean towards Rabbits.
Yeah, and Simon's mentioned that Canberra's not at home. They're playing in Wagga Wagga. Yeah, it's always hard to pick against the Raiders when they're in Canberra. But, yeah, playing in Wagga Wagga, it's not going to help them. The next game is the first game or the only game that has a different pick. Titans versus Eels. I have picked the Eels and Simon has picked the Titans. If any team's going to upset the Eels, it might be the Titans. I just don't see it. I think we're still in that rich vein of the Eels playing well. So I'm still going to stick with them at this time.
Yeah, I've gone Eels. They're looking too hot. The Titans are looking a bit lackluster, and they're not putting the ball in David Fafita's hands. So, yeah, I'm going Eels.
And second to last game, we've got Sharks Tigers. I've gone with Sharks. Simon's gone with Sharks, and it looks like you've gone with Sharks too. I think Sharks are playing really well, and the Tigers. I don't know when we might potentially see their first win of the year.
It won't be this week, I don't think. The Sharks are too hot right now.
Definitely. And last game of the round, Bulldogs, Panthers. We've all picked Panthers. I think if the Panthers are going to lose the game, I don't see them winning against the Panthers here, the old Bulldogs. So yeah, easy win for Panthers, I think.
Yeah, easy win for Panthers. Pretty much certain of it.
Okay, so looking at our picks overall, we've picked every game the same, bar the Titans Eels game where Simon's gone against us there. So it should be an interesting week, and it looks like I'll probably keep the lead, which is good. Super confident.
Boo.
But yeah, Simon says, when do the Tigers play the Bulldogs? Tigers, Bulldogs? No idea. I have to have a look. Not for a while. It looks like it's a couple away. It's not on the calendar behind me. So, hold on. Let's have a look.
Brad's hoping the Tigers' first win is against the Dragons.
Oh, that would be nice. Tigers, Bulldogs play in round 11, Friday the 20th of May. So that's, yeah, interesting.
So are we saying the Tigers are going to be 0-9 at that point?
Quite potentially.
Yeah.
And I see we've got another question. Thoughts on Walter stepping in for Kelly? Would like to see man, but I don't think he's first grade yet ready yet. I think Walters is probably the best option that they've got right now. What's up with Gamble? Is Gamble still injured?
I was going to ask you. I would have thought he would have been a pretty good choice because he played some pretty big games last year. Perhaps he is.
I think Gamble's still injured. So I would pick Gamble if he's selling. But Walters, it's that interesting situation where you've got a coach picking his son. Not everyone has Nathan Cleary as a son. But I think Walters is a quality player. He just needs some more reps.
You wouldn't entertain the idea of moving Staggs into 6 to get the ball in his hands a bit more. Maybe if they had Jesse Arthurs, they might have that luxury, but
potentially, I think Katoni needs to learn how to catch the ball first before you throw him in at 6. To be brutally honest.
Fair enough.
But yeah, we are running over. So I usually go over the Super League. They had round 7. Not too much happened. St. Helens and Wigan are first and second on the ladder. St. Helens are leading by a country mile in points differential. They've only had 50 points scored against them, which is really good. But this weekend we've got the Challenge Cup quarterfinals. So I'll do that. We've got Wakefield versus Wigan, Hull KR versus Castleford, Huddersfield versus Hull FC, and Catalans versus St. Helens. So we'll go over the Challenge Cup results next week. But yeah, we are getting a bit long in the tooth, and Paul has places to be. He's a very busy man. So anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Me? No. Thanks for everyone tuning in and throwing questions our way. We had a good amount of people throwing questions. It's nice to see some new faces there. And thanks, Brad, for your chat, and Paul for steering the ship so well like you always do.
Definitely. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And yeah, Callum's giving Paul props. He needs to keep us in check. So he always pops in to remind us that he's still there and watching. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us on the Stand Off with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into the show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook or at your convenience on iHeartRadio. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thanks for joining me again, Richie, and thanks for all the background, Paul, and good night, everyone.